February 5th, 2026. On this day, a very significant chapter in the history of global security came to an end. The final nuclear weapons control agreement between the United States and Russia, the New START Treaty, was officially terminated. With this, a system that had been in place for over 5 decades, which had imposed some form of legal control on the two largest nuclear powers, also came to an end. The United Nations Secretary General described it as a serious moment for international peace and security, as for the first time in half a century, the world is entering an era where there are no binding limits on the strategic nuclear capabilities of the US and Russia. To properly understand this situation, we must go back a bit to the Cold War era, when the United States and the Soviet Union saw each other not just as rivals, but as the biggest threat to their existence. In the late 1960s, the US learned that the Soviet Union was building an anti-ballistic missile system around Moscow. To put it simply, this was a shield that could intercept enemy missiles in flight. The US feared that if the Soviet Union were to strike first and also neutralize the counter-strike, the entire nuclear balance would collapse. This fear brought the two superpowers to the negotiating table. In 1969, the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, or SALT, were initiated. The objective was clear: to somehow halt the blind arms race of nuclear weapons. These talks led to agreements that placed limits on missile defense systems and attempted to control the number of intercontinental ballistic missiles. But the path wasn't straightforward. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, trust broke down again, and SALT II remained confined to paper. After the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union dissolved, the atmosphere shifted. In 1991, the US and Russia signed START I. This was not just a matter of promises. Under this agreement, thousands of nuclear weapons and their launch systems were actually destroyed. For the first time, strict systems like on-the-ground inspections, satellite surveillance, and regular information sharing were put into place. Following that, agreements like START II and SALT emerged, but many plans were left incomplete due to political differences and mutual distrust. Then, in 2010, the New START Treaty came into play, once again raising hopes for stability. Under this agreement, the US and Russia accepted clear limits on the number of deployed nuclear weapons, launch systems, and inspection processes. This treaty was based more on transparency and trust, meaning whether you trust the other side or not, you had to know what the other party was doing. In 2021, it was extended for another 5 years, but on February 5th, 2026, its duration ended and no agreement was reached to extend it further. The current situation is that the US possesses approximately 5,200 nuclear weapons, and Russia has about 5,400, with no legal limits imposed on them anymore. There is no mandatory inspection, no compulsory information sharing, and no formal restraint. Experts are warning that this increases the risk of miscalculation, technical accidents, or unintended conflicts. Meanwhile, China is also emerging as a growing nuclear power, making the global strategic balance even more complex. The end of New START will not be limited to just the US and Russia. It will impact the entire global nuclear system. The credibility of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty may weaken, and other countries may ask why they should show restraint when the superpowers themselves are not. This is happening at a time when the 2026 NPT Review Conference is about to take place, and there were hopes for tangible progress on disarmament from nuclear-armed states. In the end, the question remains: can a system based on nuclear deterrence still maintain global stability? Many analysts believe that this balance is gradually weakening, and history shows that without control, power ultimately breeds instability. The termination of New START is not just the end of a treaty, but a warning that if mutual restraint and dialogue are replaced by open competition, the world could once again enter an era where the nuclear arms race becomes the greatest threat to global peace. So viewers, we conclude today's discussion here and note today's question: how do nuclear weapons control agreements play a role in maintaining international peace and stability? Discuss in the context of the New START Treaty. For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.